So thanks for everything. So to get started, I'm going to share a little bit about ECDF. If you've just joined us, I want to share the screen and tell you a little bit about ECDF and what they stand for and what it's all about. So we've got ECDF is the Early Child Development Forum. And this is just really slow at the moment, just waiting for it to fix itself. And as Swalene said, that we are running really short of time. So the speakers in this next section will be of just 8 minutes, and I'll give you a little buzzer thing at 7 minutes just to let you know that it's time to move on. So here we are. This is Dr. Vasavi Acharya there as in one of the outreach excursions that ECDF often go on to help people in the community and the underprivileged children in the community. There's different ways that you can be involved. We have some partners that are supporting us to run the summit today. But you can become a member of ECDF, or you can subscribe to the EdClan magazine. And there's an email address there, and there's one on the last slide that you will be able to access if you want to be connected a little bit more with ECDF. We have a team of people that are from all over the world. Basically, you can see our first speaker there, Dr. Sue Ellingham. She'll be our next speaker. On the bottom right there, and you can see me, and you can see the zonal organisers for ECDF with, of course, Dr. Vasavi Acharya in the middle. So we have a range of people who work together to support young children and families. These are our speakers for this next couple of hours, and we'll be getting to them in just a moment. They're the contact details there if you want to contact ECDF and perhaps become a member of ECDF or offer your services in some way. Okay. All right, so our first speaker is Dr. Sue Ellingham, and I'm just wanting to stop the share there, Sue, so that you can start yours.
Thank you.
But it's not playing with me very well. There we go. All righty, so I'm just going to introduce you, Dr. Sue. So Dr. Sue Ellingham is from the UK, and she's going to be speaking about the child's place in the world. She's a consultant editor of the Early Years Educator. She's authored 2 books that support the practice across the early years and into the Key Stage 1 in the UK, Transitions in the Early Years and Emotional Literacy in the Early Years. She's a coach, a mentor, and a trainer of repute in the UK. So thank you, Dr. Sue, and your timer will go off at 7 minutes, just to remind you that it's time to wrap it up.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And also thank you to Dr. Vasavi and ECDF for inviting me to speak at this second forum. It is a real honour. I've been tuning in and out a little bit all morning and picking up some of the wonderful talking that's been going on. Biodiversity is a very big thing to think about. So my 7 or 8 minutes is going to be about the children's place in the world. And thank you for that introduction, Catherine, as well. So I often start with this slide. Children are not a distraction from the most important work. They are the most important work. And I sometimes think that's easily forgotten with all the other pressures that we have on us. So thinking that I heard a speaker earlier talk about the sustainability goals. So I'm sort of keeping that as a theme as we go through, because children are the most important work, but the sustainability of the world is also a very important part of that. So if I had you as a real audience, I'd give you paper people to write on. As I'm talking for the next few minutes, think about, what do you see as the role of the child in all of this? Sometimes I wonder whether we forget that they do have a role. So jot down some thinking as I talk about where you see the place of the child. And hopefully after I finished in the next few minutes, maybe the role of the child will have changed in your head. Because the what, why and how of all of this is actually the children have a huge role in what happens in the world. They have rights, but what are they? How are the children perceived by the adults, by society, by the people who decide things for the children? How are the children able to influence what happens? How much agency do the children have? And why is this important? Why does it matter? So out of that small human being, all these things radiate that sometimes I think it's easy to forget. So just a quick reminder of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. I suspect, and I'm afraid I haven't tuned into all of today because some of it started before I got up, I suspect these may have come up before, but there are some key words here, and I've only picked out some of them that are relevant to this. The best interests of the child must be a top priority in all decisions and actions that affect children. Now, when you think globally, so many of the decisions that are made by governments, by councils, by all sorts of people, actually forget there are children involved. I only last night watched a television program about the kind of diet that children eat and the kind of hyper-processed food that we give to children. And actually it neurologically rewires their brains, so that they don't necessarily always know when their tummies are full or when they're hungry. They just want to eat all the time. Now, somebody made a decision about that, and that wasn't in the best interests of the children, or necessarily, actually, I would argue, in the favour of the adults either, but that's for another day. Article 12, children have the right to express their views, feelings and wishes in all matters that affect them. How often are they listened to? I mean, we have the amazing Greta Thunberg now, who is, of course, a child, but she's being listened to, which is wonderful. And this right applies to them at all times, even in their day-to-day home life. Again, how often do we listen to what that child really feels, wants, and needs? Freedom of expression. Children must be free to express their thoughts and opinions. I like, as long as it's within the law, access all kinds of information. Yes, absolutely. But again, think about what children access on the computers. I know, because I've got 4 grown-up sons, I know that when they were younger, they could access stuff that actually probably they shouldn't have done for their age. Fortunately, I noticed, but not always. And the goals of education, of course. How often does the education that we devolve to the children really meet those children's personality, abilities to the full? And how often does it respect the parents, the cultures, and the environment? There's that big word, environment. How often do we educate children in their environment? Those sustainability skills, understanding how the world works. This stuff is hugely important. So we know we have unique children who matter as individuals and who have internationally recognized rights. But how often do we reflect that in what we do? And that is a huge one. And sometimes it brings us adults up with a start, and we learn so much from what is important to the child if we allow ourselves to stand back and look. The way I read this in something yesterday, and it's so important. The way children learn to make good decisions is by making decisions, not following directions. And that is massive, because again, as teachers, as educators, when we stand back and look at the environments in which we work, how often are the decisions made by us, and how often are the decisions made by the children? some of you I think I've worked with before on a training session, but some of you may have seen this slide. We aren't little people, we are children. This was a 6-year-old boy that told me this when I said, there are lots of little people coming towards me. And he stopped and he said, we aren't little people, we're children. And that was a real penny drop moment for me, because if you think back to Article 12, which was the one about education, developing children's personalities, talents and abilities, encouraging them to be able to speak for themselves and a right to express their feelings. He was quite right to bring me up. He's not just a smaller version of me. He's a child. He has agency. He has thoughts. He has opinions. And he was quite right to express that to me. And I use this slide a lot because it really changed my thinking. Because when we look at children, and in fact, when we look at all the people we work with, this is a very famous slide, and it took me ages to find it for this presentation. The why is important. So often through education, we tend to see it as a one size fits all. It's not. It's not about equality, it's about equity. And if we listen to the children, we're going to get that equity right, and we're going to see the world in a different way. It's not obviously all about a football match, but it's about how we view the world and how we view the opinions of the children. I say equity isn't the same as equality. Children are people too. And I have a very good colleague friend who lives now in Hong Kong, and he wrote this. This is Yan Dubil. The reference is on the bottom. When we work with children, we connect ourselves to the future. Through the inspiration, guidance and wisdom that we provide, and through the influences and impact we have on children's lives, their understanding and perceptions of themselves and the world around them is formed, and we influence that. So going back to the child's place in the world, it's our power. We have a lot of power over that, and we influence their perceptions of the world and their perceptions of themselves. Now that is a huge weight on our shoulders. And I think we really need to think about our perceptions of the child now. Lois Malaguzzi talks about if we devolve and plan what we do based on a stereotypical vision of the child, we're going to get it wrong. We must base what we do on the child we see in front of us and the child we play with. And that's all about listening. Catherine, you'll be pleased to know this is the last slide.
Okay, great.
So I don't know if any of you want to take a picture of this, because I don't know whether you're getting the slides as a PDF or whatever, but I've just thrown in these questions for reflection at the end, to really think about and perhaps alter our perception of children, particularly how often do we value the diversity that the children and families bring to our settings, but also about looking, listening and noting. Thank you very much. And that's me.
Thank you, Dr. Allingham. As always, very inspirational with your presentations. And
thank you.
I think it's very timely that we remember that there are the rights of the child and they've been developed for a reason. So I'm grateful that you've brought that to our attention today and reminded us that, you know, what does that mean in our classroom situations? How do we reflect that understanding of the rights of the child? So thank you, Dr. Sue.
Thank you. And thank you to Dr. Vasavi and to all of you for listening.
So our next speaker is Radhika Gumber, and she's going to be talking about happiness and emotional well-being of the child. She is an author and a founder of the Kindergarten book series. She's an experienced early childhood educator. She's certified in ECE as well as child psychology. She trains teachers, designs curriculums, and conducts parenting workshops. So welcome, Radhika.
Thank you, Dr. Catherine. And I'd like to thank Dr. Vasavi and ECDF for this global platform of learning and sharing. So very quickly, I'll share my screen. Coming to my topic. Happiness and emotional well-being of a child. So I have a question. Can you learn something new when you are stressed? Can you concentrate when you are upset? Well, it's difficult. The same goes for children. The children learn when they are safe and happy. So, are we ensuring an environment that is safe and conducive to learn? If you talk about school settings, an environment of learning by doing is what each school is providing. The best of infrastructure and teacher trainings. But we still haven't gotten over the comparison between children. We still haven't gotten over the judgment that we subject sometimes the young students to. And not to forget the casual remarks. This one can't do this one is beyond it, and so on. Coming to the home settings, we have the best of education for our children, the best of toys, best of clothes, best of play, everything. And yet, comparison amongst siblings, casual remarks by parents or family members, sometimes not even a healthy home environment. Sometimes family members are just at war with each other. It impacts the child. So, research in child psychology has proven that young children feel stress and can experience anxiety or depression too. Not all children, but those who are subject to stress and anxiety and those who are genetically prone to them. What is the situation at hand? Not every child is present in the moment of play, whether it is at home or at school. Not every child is ready for the lesson plan of the day. And not every child is able to focus and keep pace with the learning objectives and learning goals. We assume that children are too young and won't be affected by all this that is happening around them because we feel they don't understand, they're too small. What is the outcome? Those children who are not emotionally stable lag or find it difficult to keep pace with learning goals. And ECE is all about learning and developmental goals. So there's another research from neurobiology and cognitive development which suggests that 90% of the brain development occurs in the first 6 years. We've all been listening to it since the morning. We all know it as educators and parents. So how we look at ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, how much we believe in ourselves, our self-esteem, our confidence, our self-image is all built up in and sealed in the first 6 years. It goes on for life because the development is happening 90% in the first 6 years. Yes, the self-esteem and the confidence builds also. So I started with the question, I ended with the question, are we feeling responsible for keeping our children happy and ensure safety at home and in our classrooms? That's it.
My goodness, you just whipped through that, Radhika.
Thank you.
And well below time, so thank you. We do have a couple of moments. Does anybody have any questions for Radhika since she was so quick and speedy with her presentation? I thought it was interesting that you made those really good connections, and you highlighted the stress and the anxiety and relating it to the family, and then the extreme growth that happens in the brain development in those first 6 years. So it's great to make all of those links and highlight that for us. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Nellie,
Radhika. That was very interesting. And, you know, happiness is one word I truly believe is the factor to lay the foundation of any children or any child. Thank you, Radhika. You've really touched my heart because I really believe in that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Catherine.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Usha, and I'm going to struggle with your surname, Usha. I'm very sorry. Venkatraman. How's that? Is it close? And she is going to be talking about sustainable storytelling to inspire green values. She's an award-winning storyteller. She's a puppeteer. She's a classical vocalist. She's a radio show host, and she's the founder and festival director of the Mumbai Storytellers Society. And she curated the first science storytelling festival in 2019 in Mumbai. Usha hosts the Storytellers Cafe. It's a weekly radio show on a Cincinnati-based radio station. So welcome, Usha, and over to you. And you're on mute.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, ECDF and Vasri, for inviting me to this wonderful panel of speakers. Been listening to some wonderful sessions. And let me plunge into it. You care for us and we'll care for you. Set the trees to little Miku. Today, let's teach ways to honor, support, and cooperate with nature. Let's make our children eco-literate. I'm reminded of this quote: the pessimist complained about the wind. The optimist expected the wind direction to change, and the realist adjusted the sails.
Radhika Gumber.
So, I start my session, which is using stories to inspire kids to go green. Teaching kids about the importance of being green and friendly to the earth. Children's intelligence differs from an adult's in quality rather than in quantity. This means that children think differently from adults and see the world in different ways. Children actively build up their knowledge about the world. They are not passive creatures waiting for someone to fill their heads with knowledge. The best way to understand children's reasoning is to see things from their point of view. Piaget said, children saw a different world. How to create that light bulb moment? All a storyteller does is to cast ripples. If you're defined by the stories in your mind, let's see the world from the point of view of a caterpillar, trash bin, insects, glug the water droplet. What happens when you tell a story? You stimulate the mind and thoughts through stories. Between stimulus and response, there is a space to choose, infinite opportunities to choose from. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor, said, in the response lies our freedom and growth. Going green and being aware of the environment should be instilled deep into the hearts and minds of our children. What better way than to instill these values when they are young, as we are their biggest influencers? So let's start early and put a green voice in their heads with some fun ideas. Share a story about the life cycle of things that matter. Find different ways to get the message across. Depending on the age of your child, introduce environmental concepts that matter in the world today. Choose just a couple of them. Find interesting ways of getting your point across and make sure you tell a complete story, which is a chain of events. How does it rain? The rainbow fairy, how are rainbows formed? How are seasons created? Why does the vegetation change with the seasons? Introduce simple environmental concepts such as these as a little story very early on. Find innovative ways to tell your kids these stories. For example, I read in a blog that one of the teachers shared about the rain story. So she started with, the oceans have so much water. Little clouds float around and sip a little bit of water every day. The clouds get bigger and bigger, and then they get heavier. The sky gets really crowded and the clouds start running into each other. Then there is thunder, and soon after comes rain. That's it, a simple rain story. The kids love to hear it and they tell everyone, or rather share this story. You can also enact this story. Drawing a story is a really great technique to help little kids learn about the environment. Help them understand the why behind the story. Once your child has understood the story, start to introduce the whys into the story. Why do we need rivers and oceans? Why do we need the rain? Why do we need clouds? In order to help them understand the whys, ask the kids a lot of what if questions. Find opportunities to talk about why each little fact in the story is very important. Here there are many stories that come to my mind, and the famous one is The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. It's a great book for young children because it's short and colorful with lots of repetition and rhythmic language. Small babies love listening when you read the story, and they love to look at the pictures. Connect environmental issues to everyday life. Tie in the emotions effectively. Learning to nurture the environment is the key to building green consciousness. We will never hurt what we nurture, right? Get your child to plant a seed and have them take care of it. Pour it some water, put some earth in it, and put it out in the sun, and then watch it grow. Trying tangible issues to their little lives helps them connect emotionally to bigger global issues. At a young age, there is no way children can understand global impacts, but they do have the ability to feel very strongly about things. Make green choices along with them, then talk about it. For example, not to waste water. Think of ways to save and reuse water. A great time to tell one stories about saving water. This reminds me of a Cypriot folk tale, Spanos and the 40 Dragons. So there are many stories like The Tailor, where you talk about reduce, recycle, reuse, Miku and the Trees, an Estonian folk tale, Why Trees Lose Their Leaves, where you learn all about insects. It is always important to talk about the choices you make on a daily basis. This is the key to driving in stories at a personal level. Find your own stories, celebrate. In order to continue making a difference, we need to celebrate our smallest accomplishments and teach our kids to do the same. Positive reinforcement is the key for action. And I would like to end my session with this wonderful story. I'm not going to tell you the full story. The Waterville Wizard by Don Madden. A fairy tale about a neat and tidy old man who possesses magical power over trash and uses it to make litter stick to the person who threw it out. It's an inspiring green story that certainly influences everyone, even me right now. I would like to share screen. This is
We've only got a couple of seconds left, Usha.
yeah, that's it. It's just where you can reach me at so and so. That's my website, my email, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you for your presentation. That was really interesting, and I can see why you've got storytelling and you're on the radio. You've got a lovely lilting voice that almost is very calming. And your message about the environment and having fun with going green, I think, was a really pertinent point. I know I tell my student teachers at the university that if we can get children to fall in love with nature, they're going to look after the planet, because you look after what you love. So I think that sort of resonates with your message too. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So our next speaker is Madhia Ansari, and she's going to be talking about the creative arts and the early childhood years. So she is an artist and an early childhood specialist. She's the founder of Scribble Space. She's the creative facilitator and teaching on the teaching faculty at Capstone High School. She's the design partner and creative facilitator at Zwenda Design in Bangalore. So over to you, Madhia.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for that introduction, Kathleen. Before I start, I would like to thank Dr. Vasavi and the entire team of ECDF for putting together this conference. Quickly moving into my topic, I would like to share my screen. Is that visible to everyone? Just a thumbs up would help.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So for many years, we've known that children understand more than what they can verbalize, and their understanding can be seen in their behaviors other than verbal. These are their creative arts, is what I think. In relation to children, the creative art are activities that engage a child's imagination and can include activities such as art, dance, drama, puppetry, music. Now, these activities, they stimulate and help children cultivate their abilities across every domain. But the most important of all is that the creative art emphasizes on the process, teaching kids in the world that is progressively more and more product-driven, that the method by which you reach your destination is as or more significant than the destination itself. Okay. Moving on, just a brief on what is arts like. When we talk about arts, it is just the creativity and the exploration of one's idea. It allows the child, to show their expressive side and give an insight about their imagination, what's going on in their mind. I have a picture here. It's a painting by a 4-year-old. It's from one of my sessions where we were learning about blue whale. Parent thought, why has she painted the color purple? I think it is a beautiful expression because she's tried to keep the blue whale blue, and if she's painted the background blue, the whale would have been lost. That's how she described it. Creativity is in the process. I strongly believe that creativity is in the process rather than in the product. The process and not the final product is what matters in the child's art. Here again in the picture, if you see, it's a 2.5-year-old playing with colors. I think here what matters is what he's experiencing than what the outcome would be. And the essence of creativity lies in the journey that is taken or experienced to reach or finish the art piece. So now, why is creative art so important? We've all known that it helps in the cognitive development because the child is experiencing it, and they're able to explore and participate in the activities, and the physical development. For example, we as adults are able to write, walk, do our eye-hand coordination and spatial judgment. I think these are all a result of what we have experienced as children, the activities that we did. For example, children, if it is just grabbing a brush, dipping in paint and spreading it, it across the paper, is nothing but helping the child in their finer motor development, or the child jumping on the tune or some song. is helping in his cross-motor development. Moving on to the emotional development. So for emotional development, it is actually an outlet for the child to be able to explore and gain the control over their emotions. For us adults, we have certain emotions that we are not able to express very well, other than verbalize it very well. But for children, I think it is a way to explore the range of emotions also. They're not only able to express, but also experience and explore a range of emotions. Like through drama, they experience different emotions, and through role plays and through paintings. There are a few other things which makes creative arts very important. First is that it helps the learner or the child to think independently. The child is not just a mere observer, but also an active learner and a participant in the activity. So as educators, I think we should provide these conducive environments for the child, where the child is allowed to freely pick and choose what interests him or her. And if all these activities, for example, the drama, art, music, and movement, and all these activities are successfully developed, like Vygotsky states and reinforces that the learners will become useful and self-reliant future members of the society. And I think that's what we need. Creative art also helps to develop divergent thinkers than the convergent. Okay. For example, a small activity with children where they are given the freedom to express what is in their mind and what they are feeling. You can just, as educators, probably play a sound of nature and ask them to paint it. And I can guarantee you that no two child will come the same painting. And that's what we need. Last but the most important, that creative arts allows transculturality, which means that it allows the cross-cultural communication. By learning about the different artists or different art forms, you learn about the culture. You're teaching the child the different cultures. For example, when you watch a drama or watch a play or a poem, you're learning about or seeing people dressed differently, or how they present themselves is different than what your culture is. I think the more exposure we give and the more exposure people have, it will help us in having an environment where people can coexist and cohabit and share and live harmoniously. And I think it is very, very important to give the child and groom the child right from the very beginning, which is early childhood. Here's a painting of a child in one of the sessions. It might look a lot of mess and a lot of colors, but if you look closely, it's a group of monkeys preparing for a birthday party. And that's how she expressed it. This is a monkey helping the other smaller one to get on top of the bag and steal some jackfruit for the birthday party. I think this was a lovely, very beautiful painting. Moving on, here's a monster family. I think it may look that there is a bit of mess, but I think this is a magic that the child tried to create. The way the color blends, the contrasting colors, the texture, just let them be and they explore and make these beautiful paintings. I'm often asked by parents that, can you please help my child paint a little better? Or just help them make nicer paintings. And I don't know how to tell them that I cannot direct their brushstrokes. I can only guide them. So I would like to end my talk here with a message. I think it's for all of us and for the parents to know that creativity is not a linear process in which you have to learn all the necessary skills before you get started. It is true that creative work in any field involves a growing mastery of skills and concepts. But it is not true that they have to be mastered before the creative work can begin. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Madhia. It's I think your last point there, creativity is not a linear process, is a really important message that you've left us with, and you've certainly given us some food for thought, thinking about how important the arts is and building that imagination and independence. So thank you for sharing tonight or today.
Thank you.
So our next speaker is Purnima Contractor, and she is going to be talking to us about musical learning in biodiversity. Now she is an ECD consultant, and she's been a teacher trainer for around 40 years, so she probably knows a thing or two. She's the founder director of Giggleberry. She's head of operations of AECED National and national president. She believes in the musicality of the child and has been instrumental in conceiving and producing child-friendly music CDs, Melody Times Volume 1 and 2, for children and their teachers. So over to you, Purnima. And you're on mute.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Catherine. And I wish to thank ECDF and the whole team for the invitation to this prestigious global summit too. I would like to share with my screen. Okay, sorry. Well, musical learning in biodiversity. Since morning, we've been hearing all our esteemed speakers sharing such wonderful knowledge about biodiversity. Well, about music, the components of music, as you all know, are the beats, the patterns, the rhythm, the tune, the lyrics. But is there any music inside us? I would ask you all to keep your right hand over your left side of your chest, breathe in twice, very deep, and experience your heartbeat, the dhak-dhak of your heart, and the breathing, the movement of your breathing. And you will find that there is rhythm, there is beat, there is pattern, there is music even within us. What about outside? Besides all the different sources of music that you see everywhere, I'm sure you have loved and enjoyed the rhythm of the falling rain. You've enjoyed the rustling of the dry leaves below your feet, and even the twinkling of the cowbells. So music is basically everywhere. It is within us and it is outside us. In a child's musical journey, right from the time the child is in the mother's womb, the child hears music, whatever the mother listens to. Then when the child grows, and then when the child is born, the mother in her own sweet, sweet voice sings her child the lullabies. And why mother? The father, the grandparents, everybody surrounds the child with music. And you can see the child write down how the child is so, so happy with the music around. Well, the child grows up. In the toddlers, they have their own musical instruments. Even a tribal child finds its own music in nature. And of course, when we're growing up, we have our own set of music. But all this music that is in the child's environment, can it be brought into the ECD classroom? Well, 2,500 years back, the Greek philosopher Plato had said, and I would like to quote him, music is more potent instrument than any other for education. I would teach children music, physics, and philosophy, but most importantly, music, for the patterns in music are the keys of learning. Come to the present time, and you have Dr. Howard Gardner telling you about how we are all born with these 9 intelligences, out of which musical intelligence is one of them. So it means that each and every one of us are born with music in us. Over centuries, scientists, writers, poets, philosophers, mathematicians have all talked about how music has helped in their learning. Albert Einstein says, I see my life in terms of music. So how can we bring this music, which is such an important tool for learning, into our classrooms, into the early years? When a child comes in, leaving the parent, Hello, hi, good morning, Aliza. How are you today? A musical early morning greeting will pep up the child. If the children in the class are a little lethargic, a nice peppy song will warm the child up for the whole day. Will get the child's attention to whatever you want to do, rounding up, circle time, dispersal time, setting the mood for the class, everything music can be used. Music can also be used, we'll see later on, how to introduce concepts through music. And of course, music brings about the holistic development, which all of you have been talking on in all your different spheres, and the list is endless. When children are born, we all know, with billions of nerve cells called neurons. And during the early years of life, these neurons, they form connections with other neurons, which forms neural pathways. Now we'll do a little activity, and we don't have much time. So let's take out a hand, shake it. Let's take out our legs, shake it. Let's put a little music to it. Uncle Shantaram had 7 sons, Uncle Shantaram. Neither would they laugh, nor would they cry. They would sit grumpy all the time. They would sit grumpy all the time. Now, I'm sure all of you being such senior educators, you all know that children will like the one with the music more than just plain movement of hands and legs. Now, why does this happen? Science tells us that without music, 30 neurons are fired. But with music, 300,000 neurons are fired. So music is so much more powerful. Scientists say that the research on the brain tells us that music imparts both the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. So it engages the whole brain, and hence so much more powerful. Music helps the child's ability to learn the sounds, the p and the b and the f, detect subtle differences between them. And of course, when they're acting it out, they learn the meaning of the word. And of course, it transcends time and language. It allows us to express our emotions. It educates, entertains, and so much more. Music can be used for developing all these skills, and so many of you have spoken about these skills. It also benefits children with special needs because they feel very, they do not feel threatened in a musical atmosphere. I would like to make you hear one song which now we have developed at Greenfields, lot of songs, lot of stories, and they're all on YouTube. We'll share the link with you. And I'll just share this, just a little bit of it. I'm so sorry, where am I? Oh, 1 minute, please, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. We'll just play the first song. Children love animals. Can you all see it? Is it visible?
No.
No?
Zebra in the zoo, you look like a horsey, who painted you? You look like a horsey, who
Painted you. Black and white stripes all over you. Black and white stripes all over you. Oh, zebra, I feel like hugging you. Oh, zebra, I feel like hugging you.
so cute.
Thank you, Purnima. We'll have to wrap it up.
Yes, yes.
Is there any parting words that you'd like to share?
Yes, I'd like to say that we must have a musical station with whatever is available in your environment. And this is why music is very important in the ECD space. And I'd like to leave with the something from our scriptures, of our ancient scriptures, which is called the Upanishads. Walk in the rhythm of life, your limbs will not tire. I won't run through it. Sing in rhythm, dance in rhythm, let rhythmic be your life. You can have our songs are all available on the YouTube. You can go download them, use them whenever you want, and you can subscribe them because we are going to come out with many more songs. And I thank you.
Thank you, Purnima. You might want to put some of those links into the chat box for us, Purnima, so everyone can access them, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And I think your message there was about rhythm and the importance of music and how music can change the dynamics of the classroom and make something that could be boring into something that's wonderful. So thanks for sharing that.
Yes, welcome. Thank you. How do I stop sharing? No.
You're not sharing it?
No.
No.
I don't know why. I've just got lost somewhere.
Yeah, that happens.
Okay.
So you're not sharing, so we can't see your screen.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nellie Ahmed Tanvir. And Nellie is going to be speaking to us about nature as a classroom. And she is the founder and managing trustee of Maria's Public School in Guwahati. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And she's an educationalist, and she's the founder of Maria Montessori House of Children in 1988. So that was a while ago. She's a multi-awardee, and she's an invited speaker and an edupreneur. So please welcome Nellie. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Catherine. I'm really, this is a great opportunity to be here in this platform and to hear such wonderful speakers. And I think I'm relating to each one of them because coming from the Montessori school background, I could relate to each and every word of all the speakers. And I have learned as well from this platform. So while I start, I would like to quote Dr. Maria Montessori's few lines because I'm saying this from the Montessori educator's point of view. There must be provision for the child to have contact with nature, to understand and appreciate the order, the harmony and the beauty in nature. Well, my topic is nature in the classroom. And that's why I chose that nature. Without nature, a child can never be normal. I would say that they would be the happier, the interesting lot who gets enough time in the fields to play outside or to be outdoors as much as they want to be. And that makes a wholesome child from the early years of learning. And I think that goes a long way. I think everyone would agree that we as youngsters would love to play outdoors, and our mothers would keep calling us, get inside, because it's getting dark. And that is what the early years used to be. But in today's time, it is very sad that we are unable to give the same opportunity to our very little ones. But yet, my school motto is bringing nature into the classroom. So I would like to share my screen so that we can run through, because I think we are running out of time as well. So thank you, Vasavi, and thank you, Catherine, and to the summit for making this possible for all the learners across the globe to come together. Just share this. This one. I'm sorry if I'm taking a little bit of your time, but you see, when it comes to the children and their nature inside and outside of the classroom is to my heart. So now, as I'm sharing, I'd like to speak that why kids need to spend time in nature. So they may prefer to stick to their screens, but here's why getting outdoors matters. Why go outside? Recent studies have exposed the benefit, even necessity, of spending time outdoors, both for kids and adults. Some argue that it can be any outdoor environment. Some claim it has to be a green environment, one with trees and leaves. Others still have shown that just a picture of greenery can benefit mental health. These nuances aside, most of the studies agree that kids who play outside are smarter, happier, more attentive, and less anxious than kids who spend more time indoors, while it's unclear how exactly cognitive functioning and mood improvements occur. There are a few things that we need to know about them. It builds confidence, the way that kids play in nature. As you can see from these pictures, they are completely left to themselves. They're completely free in thinking for themselves, completely free in using their hands and their thinking caps on to see, yes, this is what I'm enjoying. The way that kids play in nature has a lot of less structure than most types of indoor play. So there are infinite ways to interact with outdoor environments, from the backyard to the park to the local hiking trail or lake, and letting your child choose how he treats nature means he has the power to control his own actions. You know, I would like to even say that since I have a high school and my kids go to a green environment conservation camp in Rajasthan, where I have created for the children, they go on nature trail, they go on birding trail, and the similar things they do in Assam, in Guwahati. And this we start right from the young stage. These are not my school kids, but, you know, I've borrowed them from here and there and from the net. It promotes creativity and imagination. This unstructured style of play also allows kids to interact meaningfully with their surroundings. They can think more freely, design their own activities, and approach the world in inventive ways. And this is the duty of our adults, to give them this freedom to work. It provides different stimulation. Nature may seem less stimulating than your son's violent video game, but in reality, it activates more senses. You can see, hear, smell, and touch outdoor environments. As the young spend less and less of their lives in natural surroundings, their senses narrow. Louvre warns, and this reduces the richness of human experience. And I truly believe that the outdoors are essential for a child's wholesome growth in the cognitive development, and they sure become the best performers. I would say they gather themselves around when the academics come about in their classrooms. It teaches responsibility. Living things die if mistreated or not taken care of properly, and entrusting a child to take care of the living parts of their belongings. They learn what happens when they forget to water a plant or pull a flower out by its roots. They surely have empathy. They surely have their senses. They feel sad and they feel, yes, I have to look after. So I have my responsibility. So it builds the child from within. It gets kids moving, and it gets them to moving in the park. They climb, they swing, they reach anyway just to keep themselves busy. Your kid doesn't have to be joining the local sporting school, or take them through a walk in the park. Even a walk will get her blood pumping. Not only is exercise good for kids' bodies, but it seems to make them more focused, which is especially beneficial for kids with ADHD. We have seen it in school. The moment you take them outside, you keep them outdoors, they are a happy, happy lot. And as I had mentioned earlier, happiness is a big factor when it comes to these very little young learners. That is where they pick up the absorbent mind, like what Dr. Madhia Ansari says. The absorbent mind is what the child is all about. So it makes them think. The Louvre says that nature creates a unique sense of wonder for kids that no other environment can provide. The phenomena that occur naturally in backyards and parks every day make kids ask questions about the earth and the life that it supports. It reduces stress, and the language development happens there. the restoration, then the theory, and the urban environments require what's called directed attention, which forces us to ignore distractions and exhaust our brains. In natural environments, we practice an effortless type of attention known as soft fascination that creates feelings of pleasure and not fear. So while screen time is the easier, more popular choice, it's important to set aside time for outdoors as well. Now, this is so important, and I just love the saying that nature has no walls. Children do not require a great deal of adult involvement when they play in nature. They can be more independent. And this is a child from my school. We told the parents to make these little, step in and step out. And they got it done on the terraces and the side parks. And the child is playing on her own. And this teaches them to become independent learners and to be responsible for themselves. It's hard to be passive in nature. Even a child who tends to be indifferent when it comes to learning still can absorb everything and benefit from stillness and moments of mindfulness that nature brings without having to be very active.
Nellie, we'll have to finish off there if you just want to add some concluding comments.
Yes, I would like to conclude that why do we need all these nature all the way? So I would like to say that how it helps these children benefit because they have a terrific contact with nature. And I have already said that their reliability, responsibility grows, self-confidence, learning, cause and effect, curiosity in species, growing tips, botanics, physical activity, exploring texture, and growing the love of nature, teamwork, friends or family, math, creativity, crafting, landscape, and the list goes on. And here we have a wholesome child who is ready to take in the academics as they move out of the informal classroom to the formal teaching area. Thank you very much. And I hope I've left some little message for our little ones. Thank you so much. Be happy with the green nature and be safe. Thank you very much, Vasavi and ECDF.
Thanks, Nellie. And you've brought some great points to our thinking there about the importance of nature and getting children out into nature and the change that nature can make in the dynamics of the children and the way they interact with the world. So thank you for giving us those thoughtful comments. Okay, so that's the end of our first group of speakers. Now we move on to our second group of speakers. Nellie, if I can just ask you to stop sharing your screen.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to just get out of it.
Okay, and then we're going to move on to Nichole. So Nichole, if you just want to get ready while we're just...
Am I okay now? Good to go? Yeah.
Sorry, Nellie?
Yeah, is it good to go now? The screen's gone?
It is now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Nichole is from the USA, and Nichole Tucker is going to be talking to us today about teaching children empathy through the ecosystem. Welcome, Nichole. She's the CEO and founder of Tucker Academy, a global tutoring, advocacy and consulting organisation. She's the member of Latinas in Business and in the International Society of Professional Females, the National Association for Special Education Teachers, and National Alliance on Mental Illness. So that's a lot of things to be involved in. She's also the proud recipient of ECDF's 2021 Earth Literacy Award. Congratulations. So Nichole, it's over to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I am so honored to be here, and I want to thank Dr. Vasavi for everything that she has done and the entire ECDF team. This has been an enormous effort. It's been a wonderful day full of amazing presenters and a lot of information, and I'm excited to share with you now on how we can teach children empathy through our ecosystem. And I see how it kind of follows the theme that we've been going upon with social emotional intelligence and getting out there in nature. And so, something that I want you to kind of just envision and think about first is take a deep breath. It's been a long day. And in the classroom, our children feel the very same way. It's a lot to take in, so much information. And we want to stay focused and we want to take everything in, but it can be very hard, especially maintaining that sustained attention for our kids. So it's important that we understand how we can empathize with them for that. We were also once young, right? And so I look forward to sharing this with you. I would like to begin to help put you in the mindset by sharing this quote from none other than the amazing Maya Angelou that says, I think we all have empathy. We may not have enough courage to display it. That's really important. And here we can see a masked child with a masked teddy bear, comforting the teddy bear, right? That's a display of empathy in its simplest form.
Sorry, Nichole, we can only see the front screen, the first slide. We haven't moved on.
Oh. It says that my sharing is paused.
We can see them down the side.
You can see something?
Now we're not sharing anymore.
Okay, my apologies.
No, that's all right. That happens. Same thing happened to me when I was presenting, so don't worry about it.
Okay. Here we go. Hopefully we're back up and running. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Good.
I'm going to leave it in this view then, just in case.
Yeah, okay.
I don't have a lot of slides because I really am here to try to connect with your hearts. I don't want to overwhelm you with information. I want you to be able to just take things in. So as per the introduction, which was amazing, I am the CEO and founder of Tucker Academy. And the reason I created Tucker Academy is because I've been in the education field, teaching in classrooms and consulting for parents for almost 20 years now. I've seen a lot. I've worked in crisis and trauma-based situations. I've worked as a special education teacher. That's actually my area of expertise. And I've seen a lot, and I've seen teachers with the best of hearts and the best of intentions, and parents with so much love to give, but they've been unsure of the direction in which they should go and how they can best help their child. And I think if we just make things a little simpler, we can really reach them. So I created a tutoring, advocacy, and consulting organization to help schools do just that. And I love sharing my message with schools and parents all over the world. And I hope that we can together, especially through this amazing format, start to bring empathy and equality into the world of education. So I think what we need to think about before we talk about teaching empathy is, what is empathy? Take a moment and ask yourself, what do you think empathy is? So many people incorrectly and interchangeably confuse empathy with sympathy, and they're greatly different. Sympathy is when we feel bad for someone. Empathy is when we have developed an ability to understand and share the feelings of someone. Now, that doesn't mean we know what they're going through. It doesn't mean that there's been someone who has perhaps suffered a loss, or who has a parent that has been diagnosed with a terminal illness. These are things that happen to our little ones. They see a lot more than we would like them to see. It doesn't mean that we have experienced that. What it means is we have experienced shared feelings of disappointment, of sadness, of anger, and of happiness. So some of the three, there are so many, okay? That's why I have that long list there for you to see. But we know we don't have time for all of that. So I'm going to share with you 3 of the top reasons I feel we should teach empathy. Number 1, bullying prevention. Actually, statistics show that bullying can begin in preschool. It begins ages 3 through 5. And so here we see a young boy helping a young girl up, and that's wonderful, but it's at face value. What we don't know is why. Why is the boy helping her up? Okay, so there's a concept that's really important for us to understand, and that's called altruism. Altruism is when we're doing something simply because it's what is expected. We go through the motions, all right? Sympathy, empathy, altruism, all different concepts. The problem with altruism is that we are emotionally disconnected. So this boy, while he is being a gentleman and helping this young lady up, we don't know what his next intentions are. Could he maybe keep going and kind of just throw her behind him? We don't know, right? So we cannot teach our children through rote memorization, which is how often our early childhood classrooms run. We cannot just go through rote memorization on do the right thing just because it's right. We want to reach their hearts so that as they grow into adolescents and young adults and become our future leaders, they have that ingrained in them. If they can understand how to connect with other people's emotions, they're going to think twice before they're unkind to someone else, because they're going to remember possibly a time when maybe someone was unkind with them. Another reason we must teach empathy is our psychological well-being overall. It helps us grow. It helps our children become the best that they can be. And when we look at the leaders in our world today, we have to wonder, who are the best leaders? Are they the ones that can empathize with us? The ones who listen to what we need? That's how we want our children to be. Whether they're running a corporation or they're operating on someone, that someone could be a spouse, it could be someone's child. And we want them, even at the ages of 3 to 5 years old, to be thinking of these things. Because if we ingrain it in them through incidental learning, through just everyday practice, modeling this, they will grow up to become happier individuals. That's been proven in research, and there's a lot of information you can find on it, which leads us to future success. We all need it. We are human before we are teachers, before we are parents, and before we become anything else. And let us remember that every career always begins through the blessing of the words of a teacher. So we form lives, we shape lives, parents and educators. That's an important task. It's a heavy load. So we have to feel empowered to drop the lesson plan, put it aside for a moment and seize the opportunity if you see a teachable moment. Okay, and that's what's going to bring us into why we could use the ecosystem. But first, I'll encourage you to, again, think. Maya Angelou said, not everyone has the courage to show empathy. So Winston Churchill says, courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. And it is also what it takes to sit down and listen. If you recall in the very beginning of my words, I said, I just wanted everyone to take a deep breath. My hope is that you're still there at that moment, just listening, not an overwhelming amount of information on these slides. I'm just trying to speak to your hearts. So why do we want to use the ecosystem to teach empathy? Because it's accessible. It's everywhere. It is around us at all times. It can be in our home, in our classroom, outside in nature. We have the opportunity to help students see animals that are not able to help themselves. Have you ever seen perhaps a turtle maybe trying to get across land or a road if we take that opportunity to pull our vehicle over or walk to the side and help that turtle, our children will remember that. If we take the moment to pet a dog that's looking sad, our children will remember that. We must model these things. It is important. It is pivotal to their intrinsic learning. And it's also authentic, because things don't have to come from a lesson plan. Things don't have to come from a fancy PowerPoint. They have to come from our hearts. Every single being starts as a child. And our audience right here are the first ones to help make impressions on them. So we need them to feel loved. So
Just about time to finish up, Nichole.
What's that?
It's nearly time to finish up.
Okay, this is actually my last slide.
Oh, there you go.
I share with you this simple collage of ways that you can look at everyday opportunities to teach children empathy, which is a skill and it can be taught through nature every single day. Growing trees together. Talk about the benefit of trees. Talk about how it needs to be done. Feeding pets who do not, they're not able to feed themselves when they're domesticated animals. Gathering our crops, talking about how many people we'll be able to reach, how this is so good for the environment, and simply enjoying nature, playing in the water and letting them be children, abandoning that lesson plan and simply helping them remember that, you know what, we are all more alike than we think. I thank you for the time that you have provided me with to share this information. It's only a snippet, I know, but I'd love for you to visit me at tuckeracademy.org or connect with me on LinkedIn. This is my personal LinkedIn. You can find me at Mrs. N.M. Tucker, where I love to share articles and information with more in-depth ways that we can take actionable steps to help teach our children empathy, bring it into the world of education, and help to make a better future. Thank you very much, ECDF. Thank you very much, Dr. Vasavi, and for all those involved.
Thanks, Nichole. A very thoughtful presentation there, and I took away the differences there between empathy, sympathy, and altruism, as well as reminding us that we're actually all human beings before anything else, and that we can toss away the lesson plan for a while and just actually connect with each other and be more personal. So thanks for reminding us about those concepts. So Debra is next. So Debra Weller is also from the States, and she's speaking about the influence of storytelling in the ECE for social and emotional development. She's an internationally performing professional storyteller and educator. She tells animated folk and fairy tales accompanied by the guitar. Have you got your guitar with you tonight, Debra?
No, I don't, but...
She's an early childhood educator and a consultant. For 7 years, she had the role of assistant teaching principal. She served as the president of the California Kindergarten Association for 10 years, and she is one of the authors of the book Signed Phonics for All Children. It's a multiple learning style phonics program paired with American Sign Language. So over to you, Debra, and welcome.
Well, thank you so much for this honor to be upon this platform with all of the early childhood educators and leaders. Thank you to ECDF for this opportunity. I am a storyteller, story teacher. Storytelling is the heart of my curriculum, and today I'm going to give you a brief little sample of the importance of why we need to have storytelling in our classroom. Children are oral communicators, especially in the early childhood classrooms. They begin their writing, they begin their drawing, but how they experience everything is hands-on through their senses and through their language. It is through the exposure to excellent stories, both read and told that children hear vocabulary and they learn moral lessons. It is very important to establish some rituals in the classroom so that storytelling can be the heart of that social emotional learning. On the very first day when my classroom starts, before they even know who I am, I gather them like a hen gathers the little children, the little chicks. And I gather these little children to make them feel that they can trust me and to make them feel that I have created a safe place for them to learn. It takes a while to develop. But I start with a story stick. It can be any little wand. It could be a story shoe, a story bear, or a story rock. And I gather the children. Let's join hands and make a circle. Let's join hands and make a circle. They gather in the story circle, and I explain. The story circle is a place where we can learn about one another, chat, and show respect to one another. I model for them that when we speak in a bold storyteller's voice so everyone in the circle can hear. And then I invite them to know that when a person is holding the story stick, only the storyteller can speak. Everyone else is a listener. Now, on the first day, they're bound to be a little shy and not as willing to share. But I simply ask them not to tell a story yet, but to introduce themselves. Hello, my name is, and then we pass the stick around the circle. As they get more comfortable during that first week, it's what color do you like? Tell me about your pets. We also learn about the and then stories that can't go on forever. And I gently prompt them to move forward to finish their tale. Now it's created empathy because the children are listening to someone else. They are learning about someone else and showing respectful behavior. As the time progresses in the classroom, every Monday, you know how they want to tell you everything they did over the weekend. We gather in the story stick, and each child has an opportunity to tell what happened over the weekend. And if they can't gather their thoughts, I always believe, like Mem Fox has said, you have to give children a chance to gather their thoughts. So I tell them, let your thoughts come from your head to your lips. And I count in sign language to 20 while they gather their thoughts. And then we go around the circle sharing what we did over the weekend. From there, they will go to journal writing and they will draw a picture about what they did over the weekend. But I don't want to be the only storyteller in the classroom as they have become storytellers. Then they gather with a partner and share their journal stories, eye to eye, knee to knee, creating great respect in the classroom. This storying community is how it begins in the story circle. After a bit of time, all I have to do is raise the story stick, and immediately they come to the carpet to know that this is a sacred time in our classroom. Other applications of the story stick is social emotional problem solving. When we've had an issue on the playground, or they're tattling a bit about one another, we come to the story stick in a safe way, and I set up a story scenario without pointing any fingers or bringing blame to the children involved. For instance, today there was grumpiness. We felt it in the room. And none of us felt that we could be happy in our learning. Can we problem solve together today on ideas to create our story about being kind and respectful to one another? we go around and they come up with their suggestions. And then we decide how we might use those suggestions in our brain. I also use StoryStick as a way to gain knowledge. When we are learning a new topic, let's say we're studying about polar bears. I go around the StoryStick with the question, what do we know about polar bears? At the beginning of the unit. Then as we learn and go through all the project-based learning, we come back to the StoryStick a week later, 2 weeks later, and then we share what did we learn about polar bears. We establish this beautiful experience that storytelling is honored in the classroom with the story teacher and with the storytelling children. Another way that I involve the social emotional learning is through the use of puppets. This is the very best friend. Hi, everyone. It is Purple Monster. Purple Monster is a bit naughty. And so when he comes out to the children, he usually presents an issue that has happened in the classroom. And we act it out with the puppets, so we're not pointing any fingers at any particular child. Purple Monster, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling a little sad. Purple Monster, why are you feeling sad? One of my friends told me I was stinky. Oh, how did you feel? I felt angry and frustrated. And Purple Monster would then engage the children in ways to problem solve that particular detail of how we can express our emotions and how we can feel free to learn how to problem solve them. I use fables in my classroom also, because fables are great moral learning opportunities. And I frequently tell the children fables, and we garner from that experience what we need to know about it. For instance, the boy who cried wolf. He cried wolf, wolf, and everyone came running. And the father admonished him when he found out there wasn't a wolf. And the boy was telling stories, but not the kind that we should be telling. He was telling an untruthful tale. We would take that fable and then work it out into a system of problem solving. But the most important reason to use storytelling in your classroom is the pure joy of the story. Inviting children to participate, like, for instance, cats here, cats there, cats and kittens everywhere from Wandagog, having them repeat the phrases that are in the stories. It is a great opportunity to speak before you today, but I have spent 40 years of my life being storyteller, story teacher, and training young children to stand up in front of an audience as they have performed their stories. When they have been in my storytelling camps after school, the other teachers tell me these children are better in their presentation skills, and these children are leaders in the classroom because they have become storytellers and they can teach through story. You don't have to be perfect in your storytelling. You can use storyboarding to help you remember the story as the teacher. Draw simple pictures in sequence of the story, and then you have this prompt. It teaches the children also how to use storyboards to tell their story, drawing simple pictures in the sequence of the story.
Thank you, Debra. We're going to have to finish.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I thank you so much for this opportunity, and it is a delightful privilege.
Thank you, Deborah, for sharing your insights and your practical strategies that we can use in the classroom when we're implementing storytelling. And that your point about developing a ritual in the classroom and having your story stick, and it's sort of like a prompt or a cue so that children know what to expect after that, I think is a great idea. And also giving children time to gather their thoughts is a really thoughtful way to approach it as well. So children have success in their stories and the journaling that follows. So thanks, Deborah, for sharing with us.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have Richa Kumar, and we're on to our last couple of speakers for the whole of the summit. So we're finishing with a bang with our last group of speakers in this last couple of hours, I think. So we've got Richa, and she's going to be speaking about future competencies in children and their well-being. She's the principal at Rahul International School in Bosar. She's conducted teacher training programs, life skill sessions for children, and orientation sessions for parents in various schools. She's been awarded the Excellence in STREAM by Education World and THT Forum. So welcome, Richa, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored for sharing the ECD platform with such esteemed speakers. Thank you to Dr. Vasavi for connecting with me. When we discussed this topic, she asserted that I should be speaking on this. I felt a lot of responsibility on me. Future competencies, the future, which is very important. So what I leave behind will be something that may enrich many lives. So it was a huge burden on me. And I will try to see that what good I would be giving to all of you today in this few minutes that I have with me. I felt that this solution that is there, which is in our hands as educators, where we touch upon the lives of children, parents, teachers. The present system that we are talking about, the future competencies in children and mental well-being, the changes in the present system, the ecosystem changes, presently what we are observing, the digital world, all our communications and interaction, very less cognitive and motor skill development activities for children aged specifically grade 5 to 12. The socio-emotional and value learning, this is a real challenge for us. Now, before I begin further, I would like to give this quote by Mr. Paynes. It is about how we teach, not what we teach. Kids need to learn deeper lessons by doing project-based work so that they don't forget the facts after the test is over. Yes, this is a beautiful thing that has been said, but I differ a little from the statement. We need to show the process and not teach to preach. Our Vedic sutras talk about the preparedness for life through the following processes, which I'm going to mention. Hinka, from birth to death, the learning process which the child picks from parents, peers, teachers, friends, helps them to adjust, evolve, participate, cooperate with each other. Prastav, whatever we have learned, we need to be ready to present it. Our children learn how to introduce themselves, share their knowledge with others, demonstrate the good virtues, goodness, skills, which benefit others and in turn benefits them. Udgit, this is the longest period in our life. Whatever we achieve in our life, we want it to be static. We want our achievements to be endless. So work towards it. It doesn't come on its own. Deeds pave the path for success. Pratihar, whatever you achieve will slowly lose its luster and it's bound to end. So you have to accept the situation, learn to evolve back, bounce back in spite of failures or setbacks. Nidan is the final stage that teaches us that end is reality. Accept reality as it is. Do not let it Change your present. Live for the moment. Enjoy the things you have. Express the gratitude for it. As parents, as facilitators, we need to help our children go through these processes for better skills and mental well-being. But the present readiness, the competencies, the skills that needs to be inculcated in our children, what are they? They are, we need to help our children be more analytical, more innovative, more active in their learning, apply more learning strategies, be more problem solving, have more critical thinking and analysis, encourage them for creativity, originality, and initiatives to be taken. They need to inculcate in them more of leadership and social influence. They should be more in with the technology in use. Monitoring and control by the parents is also important. Technology, design, and programming, also something that is the future. And resilience, stress, tolerance, flexibility, reasoning. Let them ask questions, problem solving, ideations, present ideas. These skills, we may ask this question, how it is possible? Well, knowledge, skills, attitude does help us develop these competencies. Far from taking time away from our children's current curriculum, situations, the skills that need to be worked upon both in school and in society. One, problem solving. Let them look at whatever problems are there. We always say that do not just help, let them ask for that help. Let them learn to play with everyone around. Not just choose, okay, just go and play with these people. No, if it is with a plant, with an animal, with a fellow, with an old man, children should know how to go and play with them. They should also be well connected with technology so that they can find the, the things that are there, they can explore, thinking in the 3D pattern so that there's always not just two sides, there's always a third dimension to things which they need to explore. They should be communicating clearly. There should be transparency in their communication. There should be out-of-box conceptions. So they need to conceptualize things that they want to communicate. We understand as educators that the challenges associated with these new competencies, we are already facing it even in our online sessions that are going on. Keeping in touch with each student is really stressful for our teachers. Guiding the parents on behalf of the children's online performance is even harder. Moving forward to latest technology is expensive, not easily accessible for all. Learners might not get enough materials from the teachers, so their crave for learning more may just be left out. Teacher may not know what their students like because there's less connectivity. Emotions are missing because, again, it's a matter of connectivity. That's the reason they are not able to connect to each other. Focus on mental well-being. How to do this now? This is a very important topic that we all are exploring ourselves. But we have little few solutions that we could try to communicate. One, teach your children the language of feelings and expressions. Learn to put yourself in your children's shoes before being judgmental or abusive. Be aware of your children's overall actions and behavior by developing a relationship that is transparent and trustful. Encourage creativity by appreciation. Show children that having a mix of struggle and strength is normal for everyone. Help them accept failures and success as a moment. Let children evolve in their thinking, retaining their originality and authenticity. Be positive in all conditions. Break the cycle. Understand expressions and emotions are important as it has to be accepted. Children imitate what they observe in their elders and mentors. So be responsive and not reactive to situation. So finally, be the change to bring the change for the mental well-being in children, which is the need of the hour. One very beautiful experience which I would like to share with all of you, that this online gave us a lot of thought how to give space to children so that they can work on their cognitive as well as their motor skill development, because we know we are not able to take our children out. I have done a little research on it, which is called the PMST program that I have designed. I will be sharing the link, the YouTube link with all of you. You all can go through it. It is a program where children are able to explore what are the hindrances, how to, use their sensory organs and work on them, how to find the way through the layout that is given to them. And simultaneously, along with their, physical development, the cognitive learning is also happening simultaneously. So this is something that we worked on and it went on beautifully. So I would always say solution is something that as an educator, we always work on and we touch upon the lives. This is how the future lies in the hands of we parents, we teachers, we mentors. So it is now we who need to take it ahead and let everything coincide beautifully, and let us enjoy. Let's be safe. Let's be happy. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richa, for that very insightful presentation. And I was started writing down all the future competencies that you were listing, and I couldn't keep up with you. But you said so many things that we're aiming toward with our children that we have in our classrooms, and as parents, our own children, to prepare them for a successful and productive and happy future. But one of the things that sticks in my mind is when you said be responsive, not reactive. And I think that's something that we all need to remember. So thanks for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much.
And now we have Smriti, and she is our lucky last presenter this evening. So thank you for waiting so patiently. Now, Smriti Agarwal is a woman who is going to discuss with us the developing mindfulness through theatre and performing arts in the early years. We seem to have a bit of a theme going here, don't we? She is a passionate and award-winning early childhood educator. She's a certified theatre in education practitioner and event manager, along with having done courses in the art of living and behaviour sciences. She also headed Podar Jumbo Kids Powwow in Mumbai for 5 years and is currently is the project lead in the content team of Vibgor group of schools for pre-primary sections. And I'm really sorry that I've pronounced probably everything wrong. So thanks, Smriti. Over to you. And you're on mute.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Catherine. That was a wonderful introduction. All right. No problems with the pronunciations. They are all proper nouns and we can pronounce it the way we want it. And globally, they would be pronounced all differently, and which is acceptable. So no worries there. All right. So yeah, I have been here since morning because I wanted to attend a few sessions and then leave, but I could not. I was just hooked on. And the spirit with which Catherine, Dr. Vasavi and the others have been carrying on since 10 o'clock did not allow me to go. Did miss a few sessions in between. I had to attend a particular meeting, but then I'm here. Now, when we start right now, I was very worried because my session started with a little game and I had around 25 participants. I'm glad that now we are handful few. So if we can we will all unmute our mics after I give you the rules of the game. So the game is called word association. And with word association, I think you can understand what association means. We have to associate a particular word with another word, which would be linked to the word that would be given to you. So it would be like, I would be calling out a name and I would be saying supposedly like Catherine Sky. So Catherine has to say something with sky, and then she has to throw that word to somebody else in the group right now. So we have how many players here? We have Dr. Wasabi, we have Debra, we have Nichole. Amrita, are you there? We have Girija, we have Richa, and we have Santana, right? So yeah, Amrit is also there. I got a thumbs up from her. So here we start the game. So you just have to unmute your mic and say a word as an association to the earlier word, right? And you have the other one has to throw that word with an associative word to the next participant. So we start with this game so that I can go back. Then I'll go to my presentation, like I'll be showing you my slides, because it's all about mindfulness in performing as you'll all have to perform. I'm sorry. It's the end of the day. I know you must be tired, but just one word, okay? Right. So let's begin. So let me start with Dr. Wasabi. She's been there since morning and she's not been talking too much. She's been listening. So Dr. Wasabi, here it goes for you. Something with blue.
Mood.
Whom do you give it to?
Santana.
Sandana. Mood.
Yeah. Full moon.
No, moon is done. You can't repeat words. Not full, half, quarter, sorry. With moon.
Only moon.
Yeah. With moon, associate something with moon.
White fat moon.
White moon.
Fat.
Okay, white. Now give white to somebody.
Amrit.
Amrit, white.
White dress.
Dress. Okay. Whom do you give it to?
Debra.
Debra, what? Dress.
Dress. Dancing.
Dancing. Oh my God. Okay. Whom do you give it to?
And I give it to Catherine.
Catherine, come on.
Dancing flamenco.
I know, right? Great. Superb. Whom do you give it to?
I'll give it to Richa.
Richa.
There she is.
Yeah. Come on. Quick. We don't have time. As it is, we're running short. Come on. Hurry up.
You're on mute, Richa. Oh, you're on mute.
Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah, you're on mute.
I got lost.
Okay.
I said flamenco. You have to add something to it.
To flamingo.
Flamingo. Flying.
Flying. Okay. Whom do you give it to?
Nichole.
I give it to Debra.
Debra already had her turn.
Nichole. I think Nichole is left.
Yeah, Nichole. Come on, Nichole.
Then I give it to Dr. Wasabi.
No, it's Nichole. We did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Nichole, flying.
Flying flamingo. Ocean.
With flying? You can't have ocean with flying.
Palm trees.
Oh, flying palm trees, swaying palm trees.
Flying flamingos.
Done.
Majestic.
Do I give a word? It's wings. Wings.
Wings. Okay, wings too.
Okay.
Girija. Okay. Girija, are you there?
I think Girija, I don't know whether she could be there. She's unmuted though. No, I think she's not
we
there.
don't know. She's not there. All right. So here we are. This was a small game we used to play in when we do theater in education with children. We can teach language. They can be playing. And how many of you had mind wandering? That Girija took a session in the morning for this. So did your mind wander to something else, or were you all thinking of words? Come on, honestly.
I was thinking of the visuals of each word.
Yes, visuals of each word. We were actually engaged in that game. We were very, very mindful. We were here and now. So even though we had a long day and there were hundreds of things that's left to do, and then we would want to go back, but here we were all involved. And here I start I would just share my screen so that we have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So can you all see it? Visible?
It's coming.
All right. So that's my topic, is developing mindfulness through theater and performing arts. So, and if you want to know what mindful is all about, it's actually something that's John Kabat-Zinn, the mindful teacher, well known globally, has been saying that mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So if you're saying all of these things and then also you're paying attention and aware, you are aware, that is what we were just doing when we were playing. We were not judgmental about everybody. We were paying attention. It was on purpose and we were in the present moment. The education system sadly actually plays a lot of emphasis on training of the mind for academic excellence. And there is a lot of emphasis on thinking, learning, and reproducing the learned information. Whereas we're not training the mind to be observant, to be present in the moment, and the emphasis is not on living or knowing self. So these are the topics which we miss out from our curriculum, and that is why we need to understand what performing arts are all about. So by definition, if we go, it is like a performance on stage in front of an audience, and where we are doing something like a dance or a drama or music. And then the question comes in, that how does one reach to the level of performing on stage? And that is mostly through practice, years of efforts, a lot of skill goes in, right? And when we are going to do all of that, not everybody would have those skills, and not everybody would be having the dedication or the determination to go through it and rehearse and put in years of practice to be performing. Then why are we emphasizing on that to be in our curriculum? And then how do we inculcate mindfulness through these performing arts? It's basically because we're so busy teaching children a schedule, a routine, whether it's at home or it's in school. What we are training the mind of our children is to be on an autopilot mode. Now, autopilot mode is that I'm doing things one after the other as I'm supposed to be doing every day, but actually I'm not there. I am going to the next task in an automatic manner. It's like a machinery. Yeah. So that is why when I come to the school, I have to wish the teacher good morning. Then she'll tell me to sit down at a place, and then she'll do circle time. Then she'll be teaching me something. Then I'll go to snacks. Then I'll go to play. Then I'll go home. Something like that. So, see, the thing is, when we are talking about early years, and we have, since morning, we have been talking about the brain being developing right now. There are neurons. We are having the pathways. We have synapses being formed. And what are we doing with those? We are putting them into an autopilot mode. We are not giving awareness to children to be at the present moment, to enjoy what they're doing, to be there mentally, physically, emotionally present, so that learning is holistic. So we should not be doing this autopilot mode. Somewhere we have to stop that. But then, how do we do it? And we can do it if only you observe a child when he or she believes that no one is watching them and they're busy playing themselves. You just give them a corner of some resources like a few puppets and a few dolls and a kitchen set or a doctor set or something like that, and just leave them and let them be. And then you see them, even when they're on screen, when they are looking at they're watching their favorite cartoon, or when they're singing their favorite songs, you would see them dancing. They would be uninhibited, and at that time and that moment, they are completely mindful. They are in the moment, and they are doing everything that they are doing is with mindfulness, because they are present in that moment, doing each activity while being there physically, cognitively, emotionally. They are present there. We have to actually call them up several times. You have to take their names for them to come out of that zone and listen to us, which can be bugging for the adults sometimes. So this is what and then again, when you observe a child that you ask them to sit in one place, and then you see what happens. Then the mind is wandering. Then they want to do 10,000 different things. and they don't want to sit at any one place. They actually want to find out what's happening around them. They are not there at the present moment because you're asking them to sit idly. So if you're giving them directions and instructions all the time, this is not helping them at all. The point here is they are always on a performance mode. The years of early years, 0 to 6, are actually the years of performances. In fact, when I train the teachers and we mentor them, when we do theater in education, we always tell the teachers, you will have to be performers first. In a classroom, basically you're performing what Debra right now said, the way she does the stories. You know, when you have the storyteller, you are the storyteller. When you are doing things, it's something that inspires the children, and then they come out with their feelings and their emotions. They're present there mindfully in that moment, enjoying it and learning is happening every single moment of their life. You don't have to teach them for them to learn. They're learning anyhow. So the point is that how can we have their attention and their concentration, their perseverance, their resilience increasing mindfully. And for that, performing arts is a great tool. We do not have it in our curriculum always, but we should be having them. So this is what Pablo Picasso said. He said that every child is an artist. And that's so true. I think the speakers, the so eminent speakers before me were laying down so much of importance on art and the capacity building of the children. Understanding their artwork is something that we really have to consciously imbibe in our curriculums. So every child is an artist, but Pablo Picasso's the second line is, the problem is staying an artist when you grow up.
Smriti, we'll have to pull things together now and finish up.
I know I know, let's not go too much into those things. So just a few pictures. So children are very focused and mindful during music sessions, left and the right brain coordinating together, the words and the music. When they're mindful, when they're using puppets, and during storytelling, during role plays. And what I would like to say is, let's integrate performing arts in early years curriculum to provide children with the optimum learning environment and develop mindfulness as a way of life. It should be imbibed in their intrinsic personalities in early years for it to last a lifetime. Thank you so much. I know the time was short and I was the last one to go, so I had to finish up. We can talk about it at length sometime later.
Smriti, thank you. You've given us some, again, food for thought. And something that you said there that sticks in my mind is that children play mindfully when we leave them alone.
Yes. They play mindfully when we leave them alone, right?
Yeah. And they can be in the moment and just be absorbed in what they're doing. So, and I think that's so true, that often as educators we feel like we've got to intervene or facilitate or do something where sometimes we just need to go away and leave them be and just observe from a distance. Absolutely. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And that brings us to a close, everyone. And thank you so much for sticking around and seeing us right through to the end. We had 10 speakers in this last couple of hours, and everybody stuck to time really well. So I appreciate that. Thank you, so that we could get through everybody and hear everybody's message. So thank you very much. So I'm going to finish that part of our day, and I'm going to hand over to Dr. Vasavi Acharya now for some closing comments.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kathy, and thank you all the speakers, all the eminent speakers today who were present with us in this platform under one umbrella, sharing so much. I mean, so much of content, so much of good things, which people can actually take back to their classrooms, to the houses. Parents can actually work on them. I think it's a phenomenal day of learning, and it's been 9 hours, 9 long hours, and we have stuck to this. And I think these 9 hours has been extremely enriching for me. And today I'm going to sleep with a mind which is so full of new ideas. And I think this has been incredible. I would thank all the speakers. Alice talked about the power of play. Sheetal Solanki on inquiry-based learning. Anamika Anjaria talked about happy classroom, how happiness matters so much. Aisha Kamar Bhatt very, very relevantly talked about emotional intelligence of children.
Rabia about sustainable learning, and Anu Khatri about mindfulness, which Smriti also talked about. She talked about mindfulness in circle time, and Smriti talked about, in the drama and performing arts. Vasundhara Kaul was very, very eloquent on the implementation of STEAM in education. Arki Karuno went on with the music and puppets, and Dr. Karen on the under reading of reading under 3 years. So that was incredible. Nellie Prota gave us some really, really insightful, viewpoints on recognizing early giftedness. Raina Khetri talked about the EBC of inclusive education. Ananda Krishnan, Nathan Fry, Linda Rose, Sonal Ahuja, Mind Your Language, and Santana Basu talked about the Montessori philosophy. And later we had Nellie Ahmed talking about how Montessori taught us about actually inculcating environment studies, bringing nature into the classrooms. We had Susan Thomas, who again talked about a nature-oriented curriculum for our little ones. Garima talked about the 3 R's: rethink, restore, and rejuvenate. Lovely. Azura was on biodiversity, and she really elaborated. Jyoti talked about a very, very not very touched upon subject, which is the role of hobbies. And I feel, I'd written in the comments that my hobbies actually took me a long way, even in my career. And Kruti was very eloquent about interactive way to boost language development. So I thank everybody. I thank Debra for the wonderful, sweet presentation. All storytellers have very beautiful voices and they can really engage. That was what Usha Venkatraman did. Nichole was lovely. Girija Gopinath actually stopped my mind wandering, and I was very, very attentive today. And Dr. Kathy was lovely in her presentation. Dr. Sue talked about one very important thing. Are we actually, what is the role of the child in a child's life? So we are all so overwhelmed with the child, and we are trying to do so much for the child. So how is the child accepting it? What is the child's role? What does the child say to it? So that's very important. And yeah, Kathy, now over to you, and you can wind it up.
Well, I'm with you, Dr. Vasavi. We've listened to so many people speak with such passion today, from the very first opening. From the very first opening conversation that we had with anybody, it was such a passionate day. People talked about the environment, talked about parenting, talked about proper classroom environments, talked about different pedagogy with children and different ways that we could foster creativity and innovation and those skills for the 21st century. So, I think it's been a really valuable day, and I think it's been a day that's been multicultural in a way, or a lot of cross-pollination with a lot of the conversations that we've had. And there's been something today for everyone. And I think out of every speaker's presentation, there's at least one piece of gold that people will have taken from each one of those presentations. So I join with Dr. Vasavi and the whole ECDF team in thanking everybody for attending, for tuning in, for sticking with us, for listening on Facebook Live, and for joining us here on Zoom as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for supporting ECDF. And with that, for Dr.